Welcome to the Good Intention Show, coming to you live on the UI Radio Network. The Good Intention Show is sponsored by the United Intentions Foundation at unitedintentions.org, a virtual community where you learn to create, track, and manifest your passions one intention at a time. Look for us on Blog Talk, Spreaker, iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, and many more. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram under United Intentions and on Twitter at Higher Intention. Yes, this is the Good Intention Show, where you will meet people who live life intentionally and hear about things they're not telling you in the mainstream media. And now, here's the truth seeker, the snake charmer, a legend in his own mind, broadcasting live all over the universe, your host, Mr. Tim Ray.
Who are you?
Well, that is Albert Brooks' Defending Your Life, and I'm making a prediction here. I'm not psychic, but I tell you, I'm making a prediction here, and I have the person who can verify if it's true or not. That I think, honestly, that Albert Brooks based his movie Defend Your Life off of Dannion Brinkley's story of Afterlife.
Could be.
Could be. All right. We'll find out shortly. Because to tell you what, that's exactly the similar experience, but in, of course, comedic way. So yes, we have our special guest today, by far the most unique and inspirational man I've ever met. And his name is Dannion Brinkley. He's here today. I'm going to do a formal introduction here in a second. But what a great show we have. We have a 2-hour special. I am beside myself right now, Susan, Jennifer. You have no idea.
Exciting.
I know. It's beyond that. It's life changing. I had an opportunity to spend a little time with him last night. So
yes.
It's been just as my son says, it's a life changer. You know? But before I do a formal introduction, I would like to say one thing about my mom passing. Recently, over the past handful of weeks, we bought the book Saved by the Light. That's Dannion Brinkley's first book he wrote, and out of the 3 books, I think they're working on a 4th book now. And we actually were reading it together. And my mom, when she was able to speak, she was actually reading it too. She was so excited about it because she knew he was coming at some point, and she read. And when she was able to read, eventually she wasn't able to read because she was on hospice and she was in the dying process. And eventually we finished the book. We were reading it to her, and as you know, people who are in that process, they still could hear everything. They may not be able to respond, but they could hear what's going on. And it was, and I know she wanted to meet him and everything like that. But to tell you what was more important to her was, in my opinion, was hearing his words in the book. She always had a sense of the unknown, and she was raised Catholic and everything like that. But his words, because it was not only calming for her, but it was calming for us, the whole family.
Yes.
And it brought this sense of peace. And I tell you, I can't thank Dannion Brinkley. I didn't even meet him at this point, right? I couldn't thank him enough for allowing that moment of time of the family to share with my mom his words of wisdom and truth about death. And it really was a synchronistic moment. I always believed in synchronicity and how being in the flow, and I try to live my life as much as I possibly can in that state of being. Often I fight against myself, but with that being said, but I tell you, after that moment, it seemed like a transformation or a moment of, wow, I really get the synchronicity that this doesn't happen. You don't have. I know he doesn't like to be called a celebrity, but he's a celebrity. His book coming ahead of time, my mom passing away, hospice. He is the Twilight Brigade. He created that, and all the interesting things that we have in common. Because, when I spoke to him on the phone a while ago, I really felt like he was a brother from another mother, right?
Yeah.
And the bonding, and it's surreal to me. I feel like, oh, my God, really? I'm deserving of this,
Yeah.
Am I deserving of this? And he'll say, damn right you are. He'll yell and curse at me right now if I if I'm not.
Don't question your words.
Exactly. That's what he says. But I just can't thank him enough. I can't thank you enough. For what you have done without even being there. And now God only knows what's going to happen now, I tell you. So if you like to get involved, look at our calls already coming in. If you'd like to get involved with our calls today, please call 646-668-8246. That's 646-668-8246, and dial 1. And you could it's like kind of raising your hand, and then we'll know you have a question, and Jennifer get you set up for that. And if we're going to be taking calls, probably not in the beginning, but call in anyway, and Jennifer could get you on the in the green room. And if you can't hang on the whole time, because it is a 2-hour special, and we know it's not an ideal time at 11 o'clock in the morning. But
some people work.
Some people work. But you could let Jennifer know your questions, too, if you don't want to hang on. But listen in. It's a great show. It's going to be an incredible show. It's going to be a life-changer show today. I'll tell you what, I'm feeling the energy. So let me read a little bit about our guest, and then I'll do a formal introduction for him. This is Dannion Brinkley. I don't know if everyone knows who he is, but he's also a New York Times bestseller author and internationally acclaimed speaker. As a leader expert on the end-of-life care and grief, he is driving force in the integration of complementary and allopathic medicines. His nonprofit organization, the Twilight Brigade, isn't that a great name?
It's a beautiful name.
That's
Perfect name.
Such a soldier's name, isn't it?
Marine Corps.
Marine Corps.
Marines for the light.
There you go. That's kind of an oxymoron, but it really does work.
The Twilight Brigade.
Yeah.
Training disciplined troops, helping you cross that barrier.
Absolutely.
There you go. And which trains volunteers to be loving presence at the bedside of veterans making the transition from this world to the next. I've been senior care 25 years. See the connection here? This
absolutely.
is so meant to be. Dannion has accrued over 32,000 volunteer hours at the bedside of those in transition. He considers his genius his ability to understand the art of leaving the world successfully and facilitating closure for those left behind. If you want to get in touch with Dan, you could DannionandCatherine.com. Also, he's also author of Saved by the Light and Peace in the Light and Secrets of the Light. And what's the next book coming out? What's it going to be called?
10 Things to Know Before You Go.
Oh.
Bam! So without further ado, a man I feel I have known all my life, a true healer, and who can have fun anywhere at any time. And I'm so proud to call him my friend, Dannion Brinkley. Wow, you're really sitting here. This is a little surreal, so welcome. How are you?
No, thank you very much for having me, Tim, and congratulations on creating the foundation. It's one thing to talk about reality and what you're doing. It's another thing to proselytize about it, but it's also another thing to manifest it. What people don't understand about this so-called world we live in, this matrix that we live in, until you bring it to black and white, it has no power by which the forces of good can operate. We all live in a certain mindset where we think about our emotions, we get mad, we get happy, but it stays internalized. Online dating, all of these energetic patterns never come to black and white. And what you represent is it'll be successful in what you're doing because you brought it into black and white. You manifested it as your intention to create an outreach. So for me, it is a sincere, absolute pleasure to be on this show today.
Wow. I tell you what, that's not a
welcome.
You couldn't get a better confirmation than that, Susan. Right?
I know.
And one thing too, Dannion, which I think which we put up just recently because I was just so excited about him coming on the show and also the actual videos on the UnitedIntention.org. Since we talked about it real quickly, is we have a movie night, and so we play movies in like a little theater, and where you have a chat room, people could come in and they could chat live with people. And we play movies that we pull from different places, and then people could talk about it. And we have it scheduled throughout the day. And we just scheduled, I believe, Dannion Brinkley's on near-death experiences, his video. I think it's a 25-minute or an hour, I can't remember, but it was posted, and it's on the events. I think it starts like on 3 o'clock. We get some prime time show in there. And so people together, you could see what he's doing and hear all about the near-death experiences. And we are going to talk a little bit about that. What happened to him today, like a brief summary, but I don't want to spend our 2 hours on something he's talked about for millions of times and gone from that. But we have so much more to talk about, and there's so much to this man that's just dynamic and beyond comprehension. just driving in the car today with him, and some of the things he told me how his psychic skill sets work, it blows my mind. I'm overwhelmed. I really am overwhelmed, Susan. If I pass out, it's probably because I stuck my finger in a circuit.
That's the fast track.
Maybe, yeah. Also, in the blogosphere, recommended reading, go there too, and we're putting Dannion's books up there as well. I think Jennifer's as we speak. So if you want to pick them up, you just go to our site, unitedintentions.org, and you can find that. And the last thing I want to say is go down there and your friends, friending people, sharing what you're grateful for. One thing that stands out, what Dannion told me over the last day or so, is he lives in the present moment. And I question that with some people, and I'm in and out at any given time. This guy literally lives in the present moment more than we could comprehend, right? And he also he knows. He just knows what it's like to when you get involved in when you're surrounding and how to create his own reality one step at a time. He's constantly creating his reality consciously.
Yes.
It's amazing to me, which we'll get into, and how he does it, and we perhaps share some of that formula for people too. If because he says everybody's psychic, everybody has the ability to be that way.
That's the truth. We're all born that way.
Right. And so get online, create groups. Go create a group. Get your message out, whatever it is. I don't care if it's about chemtrails, if it's about Oprah, if it's about whatever. Get in there, create a group, share, get people thinking about a positive future, a world without greed, or where people are just self-growing. I'm creating the blue skies.
A world where we all learn how to create our reality.
Yes.
And consciously create the reality we actually want to see.
Exactly.
And live.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on what we don't want, let's focus on what we want.
Exactly. And then watch it happen.
Yes.
And celebrate that.
Yes. So that's that. Now back to Dannion Brinkley. I can't not spend one more second on anything else other than him, because it's just too much. So real quick, I can summarize, or if you want to summarize, with 1 minute. Jen, you summarize it. You do it best. Tell us about Dannion Brinkley.
I think he would do it. Do you want to do it? Or do you want me to do it, and then you correct me if I'm wrong?
He's done it a million times.
Dannion was struck by lightning in 1975.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you want me to go into, but he was on the phone with his friend, and the lightning came through the phone and through Dannion, and Dannion often said God called him up directly. The lightning went through his body and into the nails in his shoes, which pretty much saved your life, I believe. Yeah. The shoes were welded to the floor, and Dannion hit the ceiling, and then his body fell back down from the ceiling, but he stayed above, watching everything that happened. He fell down so hard, the bed broke.
Yeah.
And when he later got out of the hospital or whatever, when they had to take the rugs up in the room, the lightning, they saw tracks of jagged burn marks where the lightning went from the nails in his shoes to all the nails in the floor.
He showed me a picture of his back. I thought it was like from a Star Wars, like alien movie.
Alien.
I never seen anything like that before.
And lived.
Yeah, and lived.
Somebody lived.
Now after this lightning strike, he developed his psychic awareness ability.
He woke up completely psychic, able to read minds.
Now prior to him having this lightning strike, you have to understand, this guy was a bully. He beat up more kids. He beat up over 2,000 kids before he was 17.
Didn't you were like a classic jerk. Right.
I was worse than that.
Which is perfect.
But remember, I grew up a tough guy.
Yeah.
And I thought how you dealt with things was you hit it in the face. Then I played sports, and then that was about ego and power. And then I discovered the United States Marine Corps, and the more stuff you tear up, the more accolades you got. So I found the perfect life.
You were right on the path.
He was an assassin for the military.
Well, let's just say that I operated to give you the maximum opportunity to pass for whatever you believed in.
Oh, that was a good spin.
So all of a sudden one day, I was pondering life. We were in the Sandinistan issue, and Nicaragua was starting, and Anastasio Somoza. And when you come out of the military, they now call it contractors, but in those early days, they were adrenaline junkies, people who were macho. And you find these people, and you watch these people, and you integrate them into, I would have to say covert, but you integrate them into it. So I had found the perfect life. And then all of a sudden, I'm talking on the telephone. And I discovered that we are spiritual beings. What the byproduct of being completely paralyzed, dead for 28 minutes, completely paralyzed for 6 days, partially paralyzed for 7 months, and 2 years to learn to walk and feed myself. I had a lot of time between peeing on myself and focusing on what the meaning of this event was. Raymond Moody had not written his landmark book. There was no references to it any place that I could find.
Life after life.
And I was limited to turning pages with a coat hanger pencil. My brother took a coat hanger and made me a hat, and I had a pencil, and he would put my hand up on the table so I could turn the pages with my pencil head and put my thumb down because I was paralyzed. And I would study in Gray's Anatomy because they told me I would never walk again, and basically they sent me home to go from this world to the next. And so all of that had value, but it was not near as important as to discover the fact that not only is there a life after death, it's a structured, magnificent place. And I know in Genesis it says there are 7 heavens. Well, I saw 4 of those heavens. And in the course of looking at all of that, it was to ponder the person that I was. The single greatest thing that anyone can ever talk about the near-death experience is this. First, you don't die. And second, you don't go to hell. How do I know that? If anybody should have died, it should have been me. And if anybody should have gone to hell, it's definitely me.
This is good news, folks.
Yeah. This is the best news you could possibly have.
It's not going to happen, but you got to remember there are 7 heavens. So it's which one of those, based on the value of why you're here on this earth and the intentions that you set to be as divine as you possibly can, determines which one you go to. And that's the big challenge. Okay, so when I had to say that when you see your entire life pass before you, and then you will watch it from a second-person point of view, and then you will literally become every person that you've ever encountered, and you will feel the direct results of your interaction between you and that person. The very moment that you see your life per breath, the world that you breathed in and the world that you breathed out is completely different. You may be in the same room, you may be sitting in the same chair, but I'll guarantee you the world that you breathed in disappeared when you breathed out. And the new world was born, and that's every time you take a breath.
Now, that's not symbolic. You're saying literal.
That's literal.
Literal. And so you come to a conclusion once you become every person that you ever encounter. I realized I got tired of hitting myself in the face. I got tired of shooting myself in the leg.
I get so quick.
I got tired of backing over people with my car. I mean, and I realized that it all comes down to this. What is the meaning of life? If whatever you consider to be divine couldn't come today, and it asked you to come, in the life you will review, what difference did you and the divine make? Or if God could not come today and God sent you, in the life you just reviewed, what difference did you and God make? And right there comes the absolute point of observation that we each face every day, but in the end, that is how you will measure your life, not God. You know more about you than God, okay? And you will measure you. Well, once that happened to me, all that other cosmic stuff that goes on, everybody, and, I became famous for going through this experience 3 times in 22 years.
Who has 3 near freaking death experiences in a lifetime? One lifetime.
I can tell you.
Hold on. Me.
I can tell you who has 3 freaking near-death experiences in a lifetime. An idiot.
I was going to say some stubborn kind.
No, a fool. A fool. Sooner or later I'll catch on, but here's the down part. When you kill me, I get interested in the subject matter. And if you kill me 2 or 3 times, I'm going to be an expert on it.
Pay way attention.
Yeah. But when you come to realize that that's all the value is, that's why I became a hospice volunteer. If I'm going to be every person that I ever encounter, and I'm going to feel that direct results. Then I want to be at the bedside holding that guy's hand, because I deal with veterans, holding that guy's hand. So at some point, that face that he looks up into, knowing I'm there and that I care, I'm going to see a divine reflection of myself. So I'm not such a wonderful, kind, loving person. I'm a smart person because I've been through 3 of those panoramic life reviews, and I'm going to perfect that puppy this time.
Okay. Look, can we hone in on that for that experience for a minute? 2 questions I have for you. First is, I know you describe it in the book very well, but maybe if you could just describe a little bit more of the feeling of being home with that being that you eventually saw and was with, and how that unconditional love. I guess I don't know how you could explain it other than those type of words, but maybe you could express a little bit more of how comfortable it was to be home there.
Okay, when I wrote Saved by the Light, I didn't have any idea who this being was.
Yeah.
I'm burning and on fire. I'm blind. A ball of fire that came through the room burnt my eyes. I'm paralyzed, and it's like I'm drinking battery acid. Oh. There's more pain than a human being can possibly gather the strength to endure, and I cannot move. I cannot find safety. I can't back against the wall. I can't measure my enemy. I can't see them, and I'm dependent on my hearing, and my ears are ringing. I don't know what happened. I have no consciousness of it. Then all of a sudden, I lift out of my body. I could see. I didn't have any pain. I could look down at me, and hell, I should have been dead as ugly as I look. Okay, and so, I mean, I was completely disassociated from it. It was like I was just an observer, like watching it on television. You know, it wasn't real to me. And then I could feel this comfort, and then I moved down the tone. And when I got to the other side, I'm in this shimmering light, and I decided to look at my hand. You know, nothing's happening. I'm feeling really good. I'm comfortable. I'm not burning. I'm not on fire, and I can see, so things were looking up.
Nobody with horns.
Yeah. Well, I kept waiting on that.
Where's the red jumpsuit?
Because if anybody was going to see him, it was going to be the kid. And so this being, I looked down at my hand, Tim and Susan, I looked down at my hand, and it appeared. And the silvery blue mist, it appeared. And I moved it. And then I sensed this presence coming toward me. And when I went to turn away, it went back into the mist. It was no longer necessary for me to be able to see that I had some semblance of a body. And then it just disappeared, and I turned in this being. Well, this being was like comforting. But I always frame it like this. You know, if your daddy catches you doing something, he's going to put one on you. If your granddaddy catches you, you're just going to have to listen to it, and at the end, you could probably hit him for a quarter. It was that feeling. But let me tell you who that being is. I mean, after 3 journeys, I can quantitatively tell you who that being is. And people, Buddha, Allah, Krishna, Muhammad, Jesus, God, I mean, every name. That being is you. Mm-hmm. No one ever leaves heaven. It's the stupidest thing to think. It's moronic. Nobody ever leaves heaven. You project a certain nature of you within the context of this world you're living in. You project that nature so you can experience God-like choices.
So you're saying it's your higher self you, much more than just this physical construct.
Socio-psychological constructed appearance to be a body.
Yeah.
When everybody think about it from a scientific point of view.
Yeah.
Oh, this is my body. Oh, I must protect it. Well, what is it? It's just a big water bag. Okay? And if you think about it in reality, most of us are just water treatment plants.
Is that true?
Encapsulated in skin.
Pure science.
Well, it makes, to me, on a rational level, that makes complete sense, because who would love you no matter how horrible? I mean, if you're a Jeffrey Dahmer, mm-hmm. or whoever out there,
exactly. What is unconditional?
Who would love you more than anything, no matter what you ever done, other than your higher self, right? Because he or she, it knows all about you.
Who knows?
And watching the choices you make, knowing better.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Watching the choices you make, knowing better, because look, you never go anywhere. I mean, you have to appreciate the fact that you have a right to exist in the framework of this world. But think about this. You get a chance here to be everything that you can think God is. Kind, loving, protective, wise. You can even create life. You can create life. You have all the skills of a God. You have every opportunity to express the highest power of anything you think the divine is. That is a reward and a gift to a spiritual being. And you only get like 70 or 80 years. Right. It's like a drop in the bucket.
Right.
The other day somebody said, well, you know, if you eat this stuff and you do like this, you can live to be 120 years old. And the host said, well, Dannion, what do you think about it? I said, I think you ought to put that fool in jail. And I think we should burn all these books. Who in the world wants to live to be 120 years old?
It's only people in fear that want to hang on to this.
Are those blood-drinking, baby-raping reptilians?
Yeah, there you go. Now we're getting some reality out here. You know? So I want to do one call because we have a lot of callers today, and I'd like to do one call who has she has a question. Her name's Eileen, and she has a question about a fear-based dream she has, I believe. So do you want to do that now, or we can do?
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Okay, well, I was going to do that quick before. In fact, what will
Susan and I can handle it.
Susan, I have to say, she's a pretty good dream interpreter, you know. But I just want to do a quick break, and then we'll get back. Elaine will get right with you, okay? Thank you. We'll be right back with Dannion Brinkley.
You are listening to The Good Intentions Show, sponsored by the United Intentions Foundation and UnitedIntentions.org, a virtual community where you learn to create, track, and manifest your passions, one intention at a time.
All right, and we are back. Like I said, we had a short break there. And Dannion Brinkley is in the house, saved by the light. And I'll tell you what, this is tremendous here. And Susan, I know you're probably more excited than I am. You've been following him from
the beginning,
from 1975,
since he was 12.
You've been following him since he was on the ceiling.
Exactly.
All right, let's see here. All right, Elaine, I'm coming to you here.
Hello.
Elaine, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
You were coming in loud and clear.
Is that Eileen?
Eileen
yes,
or Elaine?
Eileen. It's Eileen.
Okay.
It's Eileen.
Sorry, Elaine. Sorry, Eileen.
Eileen.
Eileen. So you're on live with Dannion Brinkley. What do you have for him?
Well, first of all, it's so awesome to be able to speak to you. And I probably have more than one question, but still, this one is most on my mind because it just occurred again. And that is, it's a fear-based dream I have where someone is trying to get me. And I've had it so many times, and it's one of those dreams where you wake up sweating and your heart is palpitating because you feel like someone is after you, and I never get to see who it is. So part of me thinks someone is trying to visit me, but my belief system is so fear-based, I won't let it happen. Is there any way that you can give some insight?
I agree with you. I mean, and that's what's happening. First, there's an issue of abandonment. There's a place in your early nature that happened abandoned, and then maybe, I would say, deserted. You feel deserted by someone, like a close friend, or I'll use the word abandoned. Okay, that's the sub-psychological place that you're operating from as a human being. But second, you're a calm, loving person, and you think things through. And so as you've begun to enter what's called the hypnagogic state, this is happening to a lot of people. I mean, this is happening to a lot of people because we're in a shift. We're going from one age, December the 21st, 2012, we're heading into a brand new age. So the veil is thinning and more people are receptive. Fear-based is how this world around us is created. So because if you have two things that a human being does, it seeks gratification or preservation. And once it becomes fear-based, this fear-based is a psychology of being abandoned. Okay? Now, that's not the real nature, but it's how you think it. What you have to do is open up to be of service. They've had it twice. That's someone trying to get to you and trying hard to get to you, and they are not allowed to show you who they are. because of your, a lot of times religious-based, won't allow you to let that occur. So what you need to do, hope that terrifying dream comes back.
Yeah.
Pray for it every single day. And then open up. Because that's probably me knowing how beautiful and wonderful you are coming to you in your dreams. Or it's someone like that that's caring and loving and trying to embrace you in a certain support system that you need.
Wow.
And I want to add, Eileen, I think it's your dad.
Oh.
Now, wouldn't that make it easier to let go of the fear?
Yeah, because, of course, the track of the dream is as if, all the lights are out in the house and somebody bangs on the door and comes through, which is, of course, scary when you're vividly...
Leave the door open.
Yeah. Well, see, now I've been sitting here thinking that I should just say, I intend for there to be sort of an open situation, like come into the backyard or something while I'm out there sitting.
But that's a good start. You see, what you're doing is eliminate the fear. Fear's the driver, and it's abandoned. Somewhere along this course, you were abandoned, and that slot, or you felt like you were, and that slot is not filled. And you relate it all in how you've composed this dream. But what you want to do is just embrace the point. It's not fear. And if they'll come in the backyard, then you wouldn't be afraid. Look at the leap of faith that you just made in that one statement.
Yeah.
Look at that leap of faith. So sit in the backyard in the evening. Put yourself in a place where equal to what you're thinking to allow it to happen.
I know. Speaking of fear, Eileen, did you have anything else? You can still ask more questions.
Well, I just wonder if that also plays into why people get physical, like migraines. In my own case, does that also play into that, or is that something else?
Well, that's a little more complicated because if you have such severe fear, not without a dream, and you're having such severe fear that it's causing that kind of stress and anxiety, you need to really observe your abandonment issues or your deserted issues. There are 2 words in there, and in those 2 words, you'll find that answer. But migraines can be treated. You can go on the internet
I do.
It's lemon juice and apple cider vinegar and a little Himalayan salt.
Holistically.
Okay.
There's no other way. And all right, so listen, thank you for calling.
Thank you.
I hope that scary dream comes in the yard.
Yeah, I hope so too.
And I hope it's a being of light that looks just like you, because that face that you can never see is really yours.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Can I add one thing there? You can also help ahead of time by giving yourself the suggestion that the next time this happens, I'm going to sit with it. I'm not going to be in fear running from it. And you can prepare yourself ahead of time to let down that fear by giving yourself those suggestions.
Nice prep work.
Or from the old days, plan to choke it.
Yeah.
I
knew you would
Pre-lightning.
Love you, Dannion. Love you, Susan.
I love you too. Be blessed, my sister.
Thank
you, Eileen.
See you, Eileen.
Bye.
Wow. So this fear, when you crossed over, Zen, who I had on the show the other day, DeBrooke, she said, ask Dannion when he's on, do you all of a sudden get this feeling when you cross over that, wow, this is all an illusion here on this earth. This is all made up here on Earth. It wasn't real.
I don't think you give it that much importance.
Wow.
Once you have the panoramic life review, that stuff's over and it's in the can. That's film talk.
Right.
But it's over and put in the vault. Where you find yourself in the next adventure, because these lives are about how much you learn to be compassionate and caring, be wise, and to set a true value of who you are. Most people wait for someone else to set the value. It's why love is such an abused word. Mm-hmm. But the value of my love is the divine place that I have seen more than 2 times. I travel there sometimes. I don't have a control about whether they draw me over to the other side. I don't have control over it, but it does happen. But got to remember, I mean, what a person goes through over there once this is done, it was 70 or 80 years. It's nothing.
Yeah,
it's
for
like
eternity,
It's like a speck of dust. And you look at it, you see the life review, you grade yourself, you evaluate yourself as a high, powerful spiritual being with dignity and grace, and you're observing whatever you did. But it's not like you're judging how well you designed the plan and how well you executed it, not whether you were bad. And just like Jeffrey Dahmer, I don't understand what makes people that way. Okay, but I believe there's a 700% increase in exorcisms. And I believe because the veil is so thin, there are beings that sit in what I call the blue-gray place, that you have free will. You will stay there as long as you have to until you let go, because people are addicted to drugs and alcohol and
possessions.
And our attachments. A possession is like you see in the movies.
Gotcha.
But an attachment means that a lot of the behavior patterns, you're allowing them to control. A lot of addicted people have attachments to them that drive them even when they're trying their best to quit and to stop. And it's how you cleanse that away. And there's so much more of that occurring now, Tim, because the veil is thin, because this new era is being born.
Mm.
And as it's being born, it'll be set sometime after April 2017. So not only is it coming really fast, because tomorrow will be April, not only is it coming really fast, it's the intensity of what everybody's going through by not letting go, setting their new intentions to be able to focus as this new world comes. Because the old one, anything not built in integrity will collapse. And from 2008 till today, we've seen everything we have faith in collapse. You trust your minister, you trust your banker. Who do you trust? Nobody.
Yeah.
Why? They will rob and steal from you. And I think the core basic place for people in America to start from is to ask yourself this question. Do you believe the government lies to you?
Every second of the day.
At that point is where, in everyday life, you begin to construct your new reality.
Mm. You're right, because so we need to have this contrast. I mean, the awakening really, and that's where I love the fact that you're so involved in the three-dimensional world here with what's going on with the GMOs, the chemtrails, the New World Order, the Rothschild banking system, and all this. You are engaged on that level because you know you need to be aware of it to realize that I want to change this reality.
And then I can affect the effect.
You can affect the effect, right? And so between now and April, you're saying we're moving in this direction. The question is the speed is going to be determined up to us, our free choice, whether we embrace ourselves with this awakening and awareness and make choices that's going to lead our higher self to this more of a focus on a different reality, a higher or healthier reality.
Or you won't.
But
look at the choices here. People say, I said this, if you look at Saved by the Light and what I said for 40 years now, there's nothing new.
Yeah.
Okay? It's the same stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I said that now we would come to a place where we'd be at world war or world peace. And when people think about that as a choice that you're making today.
Oh, by the way, tell them some of the predictions you've made, because I think that's a critical part.
I said that you would turn out to be a handsome young man. And Susan would become a girl genius.
Well, he is brilliant, isn't he?
He can spin it. He's not without his charm.
But so much of the things that I saw coming, I called it the environmental religion, and now it's climate change.
Yes.
I saw the collapse of the Soviet Union. Yeah. I said that...
On record, he said this back in the 70s.
I know. I read it way before it happened.
Yeah. And that chip technology...
Even the chips, that one really got me.
It'd be an implanted, and all these things that were probable possibilities that would happen. But here's what today is, everybody. Today, in Syria, you have 5,000 crack Chinese troops. You have 8,000 Russians. You have the Turks. You have the Israelis. You have the Iranians. And you have the United States. What is hilarious about the United States is that we have CIA-controlled freedom fighters or terrorists or overthrowing Assad.
Yeah.
and the CIA and the Defense Intelligence has. And now they're fighting among themselves. So the United States of America, two separate agencies, are funding freedom fighters or terrorists, and they're shooting at each other.
The left hand is and the right hand's doing.
Well, the world is laughing at us.
Yeah.
So if there was a place like they says in the Bible that Damascus would burn before the second coming, well, Damascus is burning.
Right.
Syria is burning.
Well, there's these civil war. Look at what's going on in the United States.
That's not a civil war.
I mean, not civil war, but look what's going on in the United States. And I say civil war, but there's this polarization of people. And look what Israel. You were saying Israel's in this civil war. They're fighting. They're trying to get their identity. You know, all these countries.
Who benefits from the destruction of countries created from the Balfour Agreement? Where is their oil?
Yeah,
well, but you just look at the countries. Where is their oil? Okay, who's pumping it? That's why gasoline's $1.90.
Right.
Because they're pumping it out and selling it for $5 a barrel. Okay, who benefits? What is the greatest crisis in the Middle East? Water.
I didn't know that.
Water. The Jordan River is about as wide as your thumb. Water. I've said it always. The Great War will not be fought over oil. And we've already had the 2-3 great wars. It'll be fought over water.
Well, they're buying up water left and right now. These power brokers in the United States. If I want to control the water. I want to control the water. Control the water. Control the people.
If they can control the air, water is next to that for
the
survival.
Water's first.
Yeah.
Well, air. The earth generates it. You can charge the ionosphere, and you can control weather. What the thing is amazing to me that people don't realize that weather is electrical. It has an atmosphere, a stratosphere, and ionosphere, and each of those are positive, negative, and neutral. You can charge the ionosphere, and if you put chemtrails and particles in the atmosphere, then you can set a higher resonance of the charge. I'm sorry that the stuff that falls to the ground is mercury and baric salt and aluminum, and that's why you cannot capture your own rainwater, because if you capture your own rainwater, they take it down and test it, and you will find everything that people describe as in chemtrails, and they're busted.
Right.
Okay, so controlling of water will come about as a part that will affect us. Look at Flint, Michigan. Look at fracking. Look at what it's doing. Fracking to get oil is creating earthquakes and polluting the water. Well, whoever sits at their home and thinks for 1 minute that that's not the craziest thing that you can think, so you can buy cheap gas to go buy cheap stuff on credit, have gone completely crazy.
Right.
And what this show is about and what you're trying to do, Tim, is stop people from trying to live in yesterday.
Or pull their head out of the sand.
Yeah, but don't live in yesterday. Okay? The America that I was born in disappeared in 2008. It's gone. Yeah. It's gone. And there's not a person born between 1940 and 1967 that thinks that it's the same. It has changed, so you got to realize you have to change with it.
But it's been hijacked, though. Doesn't that bother you that it's been hijacked from within? And
because we allowed it, because you weren't here pushing good intentions. So it's all your fault that those evil demon bastards are doing what they're doing.
It's you, Tim Ray.
You too, Susan. 1996.
Not me. It's all Tim's
it's
fault.
1996, and you're just now coming to the fight.
I've been in this fight since I was a little kid.
Honey.
And don't you believe that what's happening globally is also happening personally?
And it's your fault.
And it's all my fault. I cop to it. It's all, but
well, it really is. If you think you're creating your own reality, it is.
Absolutely.
All our fault. Collectively.
You were born between 1940 and 1967. The world we're living in is your fault. The fact that we owe $19 trillion is we try to hold on to a lifestyle that was crazy. And now what you got fracking to get oil and gas out so you can make it cheaper to run your home, and you're killing your own self, you're creating earthquakes, and you're polluting the water. Folks, we better find another way.
And not only that, but we're also, we're destroying our children's future. And like, I wish we were more like the Indians, where they thought that decisions were made 7 generations in advance. You put it's just, to me, it's insanity. it's divine. It has to be divine insanity, right? Or we wouldn't be experiencing it.
Or control manipulation.
But the breakdown of the old is happening everywhere. The destruction of the old, everything is falling apart that we used to know.
Right.
But that also happens personally, why so many people are in crisis is the parts of themselves that they're holding on to are in the way.
But you have to take that one step deeper too, Suze, because watch. There are people who know what we know. Okay, they're amassing billions of dollars. Who are they feeding? Nobody. They're creating vaccines and GMOs so that they can depopulate. Okay, so when you look at what's happening internally, it's your responsibility to observe it properly. But you got to remember, there is a shift coming. And the more danger and the more fear and the more scare tactics that you use, it stops people from capitalizing on the light, delicate energies that are birthed in a new age. It's like when that bud, that little tiny bud, first opens to blossom into a beautiful flower.
Absolutely.
You're minimizing the suffering.
Absolutely. No, I'm not doing that.
No. I'm saying when you do that, you're minimizing the suffering.
And what I'm saying is that people each need to take their own personal responsibility for coming full into themselves and letting go of all the things that don't match that part of themselves.
Or doesn't work anymore.
Exactly, all of that. And that's why so many people the more resistance you have to the change, first within yourself, then when you can release your own resistance to the change that is happening within you, it helps release that resistance to the changes that are happening in the world.
And if you don't, the easier you are manipulated.
Absolutely, because then you live in fear. Okay. And when you live in fear, you are so easy to manipulate. Right.
So speaking of that, the blueprint, let's talk blueprints for a second, Dannion. You've gone through 3 NDEs, near-death experiences. You have a good idea of what's going on the other side of the veil, as well as bringing it back to this veil. Not many people get that opportunity to do that. I think last I heard it was like 800 million a year or something like that, have NDEs.
And that's only who you know about.
And 800,000 maybe, not maybe 800,000, somewhere around that.
I'd say there was 25 million. If I had to do a statistical viewpoint from 1975 as it became an observable phenomena, because Raymond gave it the name near-death experiences in 1975.
Raymond Moody.
I would say there were 25 million people have had some form of this experience.
Right. Well, and I think to record, you're the one that had the longest near-death experience, right? 28 minutes?
Well, you can resuscitate someone up to 3 hours now. Back then,
especially if they're frozen.
Temperature. Because back then, if you didn't have oxygen going to your brain for 5 minutes, you were declared clinically dead. So that explains part of my problem.
Sure.
You can always count on that as an excuse, right? Ain't my fault. I was dead for a long time.
Okay, back to the blueprints here. And this is what I find fascinating about life, living in this 3-dimensional world, and that I'm trying to balance and comprehend and have fun at the same time, because I'm all about having fun. If I'm not having fun, I'm dying, right? So so between these lifetimes, you have this life review. And you had your life review at least a couple, if not 3 times. And I guess at that point they say, well, Dannion, your purpose was for this experience was to have to do this. You were off track. You had free choice. Of course, you went down this way. And how does this blueprint? What can you totally, completely ignore this reason why you're there and go in a whole other direction? But you would not be in the flow of life, or could you still be in the flow and not follow your blueprint?
I believe you choose to come and you're chosen to come.
Okay.
Okay, I would think that there's 1 billion spiritual beings waiting at the moment of conception. And I believe that spirits enter at birth. They might be kicking and all that stuff, but that person's not in there because the divine will determine in a nanosecond, a millionth of a second, which one of those billion beings would be the most perfect being to be born at that moment, at that place, in that time, to execute the divine plan. But you also choose to come because it's what creates free will. A place where you have a chance to be divine, caring, loving, compassionate, and wise, or you can be the biggest fool you can get into. Well, most of the stuff is driven by ego. And just like you mentioned, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey Dahmer, his illness or the sickness, that what it was about control. Well, if you look what he did to bodies, then it's not about the act of murder or the act of cannibalism, because it goes back to ancient tribal lore. Tribal lore, you ate the heart of your enemy, you drank his blood, you cooked his penis. These are ancient tribal traditions that are hundreds of thousands of years old. And here is someone where the veil was so thin that experience migrated over here. John Wayne Gacy. This is about control and domination, and he had to have existed in a period of slavery. Okay, and then he enacts those things that we've heard of what happens under slavery from the South, us here, all the way back for 10,000 years. So you have to observe it from that point of view. And did he have the right to do that? Yes. Should he have done it? No. Is there an attachment or a possession within that? I would highly be suspect that it was. People walk around in fear, and they open themselves up to be controlled and manipulated, because that fear of being protected or safe becomes a dominant issue, because you don't want anything to hurt this water bag.
That's it. And what you said there about anybody that needs to control anything or anyone feels so unsafe. They're in a total state of fear. And that's why just the illusion of controlling anything makes you feel like you have a little bit of measure of safety.
I'm agreeing with you, Suze. What we have to do, everybody, is not be afraid. It's okay to be aware. Mm-hmm. It's okay to be observant. But when you let fear, like people are scared to go out of the house because somebody blew up a bomb. Well, okay. There's people in cities right now that's being shelled and bombed, and they're out playing in the street kicking their footballs because they understand that it's just a part of what this is. I do not believe that so much of what is happening by accident. It's contrived, like you said, Tim, because it puts us out of control. It puts us not in a place
takes our power away,
where we are dependent on a system that tells us it's doing it to protect us. Well, do you trust your government, or will your government lie to you? At that moment, everybody, your spiritual awareness should come to the forefront.
Now, what about taking account here? And I agree wholeheartedly with you on that. But taking account the fear piece of it, but you have literally tens of holistic doctors who are disappearing, suicide, killing, because they're talking about Nagalase in the vaccinations. They're talking about GMCAF solutions that they shut down the power plant. This is reality happening. The families are suffering having their doctors. Where is the line between fear, healthy fear, and knowing what to say, not to say, or do you feel you protect yourself with the white light and there's nothing to fear? Because, I mean, you probably the most fearless man I know since you've been dead 3 times.
Ain't got nothing to lose. What are they going to do? Kill me? Well, big deal. Who's that scared? And watch, okay, we're going to inflict some pain. We'll have at it.
Yeah, been there, done that.
I got that down pat. So my place is this. You got to watch. Here's where you make critical choices, Tim.
Yeah.
And it's never what you do, it's why you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
The essence.
Sometimes the intention is the value you place upon the action. I just want it to be a happy moment. If my time comes, it's okay. I don't care. That I have achieved what I've achieved, and it's time for me to go. I know you get 7 options to leave. That's how suicides are created, where you in a place in that option where you can no longer bear the internal or external. It depends on whether it's an internal emotional issue or whether it's an external physical issue that determines the value of the transition. But once you realize you have those options and those choices, because sometimes people bite off more than they can chew. Okay, you get all that, you get here and you realize that you're smart, or you can do things and achieve it, and you get carried away. I live in what I call the Swami business, and I'm on the tour, and I see everybody, and I know everybody, and I watch how it unfolds. First they talk to you, then they talk at you, and then it's like having a mirror. You get so self-involved. I always tell people I know too much about myself to take myself seriously. You know, when people start praising me, I said, listen, I know too much about me to buy all that kind of stuff. But our point is this. We are at a place in our lives today till April that your intention, everybody who's listening to the show, is of the utmost importance. What you think about, not fear-based, okay? Because our own people are doing this to us. They're doing this to enact fear, okay? New York is now vulnerable again, okay? Look at everybody's psychology, that they can get away with it in New York and New Jersey, and it's some kid hiding in a basement someplace with a gun. The lone wolf. You cannot defend against a lone wolf. It's one person who became radicalized, okay, and he's now the lone wolf. Well, we're going to be afraid of our neighbors, and we're going to be afraid of the nicest people who live in the neighborhood. We've created what the East Germans did, and Nastasia, and this is where America's coming to. We must stop together and really focus on what's best for everybody around us, not just you, because in service and helping people, no matter how bad it gets, I can go sit at the bedside of a veteran, and I can be there, and I can create open-ended questions, which is the Twilight Brigade, and I can create open-ended questions, and I can help them find balance and peace and let go of all that stuff like we're trying to get us to do today, Susan, so they can have a safe, loving journey. Well, it's the same thing that you're trying to do, Tim, with this show and with this foundation. Hey, everybody, you make any choice you want, but is it the collective good for, like what Tim said, our children, our grandchildren? We owe $20 trillion. Well, who incurred that debt? We did. And did we incur it literally? No. We're paying the loans. We're paying the interest on the money we spent living a life of I, me. Everybody wants instant gratification or be totally afraid.
Yeah. Amen. You know, and when we get back from break, I want to talk about, and then you can think about, what would a life review look like for the Rothschilds and the Bushes and the Clintons? You know, if they, because they're and the Rockefellers, because they're making decisions that are affecting billions of people. And so I'll let him think about that for a minute. But when we get back, also we have some more callers. We're going to take a call from Vern from Atlanta. I hope that's Dr. Vern. I don't know too many Verns, so hopefully it is. And we'll be right back. Thank you for listening.
My father received excellent care in the hospital, but hospitals are depressing, and I knew that if we could just get him home, he'd do so much better.
Golden Home Services, the premier private in-home care service for seniors in Georgia. Here's a real client, Laura Ross.
His Golden Home caregivers had been working closely with the hospital staff, and since the doctors knew that he would receive quality care, they were willing to speed up the rehab process and discharge him sooner than normal. He started getting better by leaps and bounds. He still has a way to go, but I'm beginning to feel like I have my old dad back. I can't say enough good things about Golden Home Services. I don't know what my family would have done without them.
Hi, I'm Greta Full, president of Golden Home Services. We all have parents, and I know I love my parents more than anything else in this world. And because of that, Golden Home Services makes sure we care for your parents as if they were our parents.
All right. We were back with Dannion Brinkley, Saved by the Light, author of many other books too, and a brilliant man on so many levels that it's probably too much to comprehend. If you really met him in person, shook his hand, you probably would explode. So that's just my opinion. We have a call. We're going to take a caller first, and then Dannion, we could have a little fun with this of what a life review would look like for the Rothschilds or the Clintons or the Bushes or whoever. Okay. Let's see. We got Vern. Hey, Dr. Vern, is that you?
That's me. How are you doing?
All right. Hey, good. So, Vern, what do you have a question for Dannion?
Well, I'd like to know what his insights are regarding predestination versus free will. I would really like to see what he's learned over these many years about how that basically works out.
You choose to come, and you're chosen to come. Very few people ever fail what they were chosen to come to do. What they fail is what they chose to do. Okay, you have there. It's not one thing. It's a multitude of things. It's a multiple layers depending on how you choose to grow within the system. Excuse me. I was chosen, Vern, to do a certain thing, and when they decided that I wasn't doing it, Archangel Michael and Gabriel, and they all got together down at the Cloud Bar, and they were doing angel shots. And
there you go.
I got a good idea. Let's go kill Dannion, that stupid, hard-headed fool.
This should be entertaining.
Yeah, let's see if he can get up from this one. So you got to remember this: it all still stays free will. Nobody even has to go to heaven. You don't have to go. You can stay in that in-between place I call the blue-gray place. The Tibetans call it the Bardo. Catholics call it purgatory. It's that place, but it's about choice that you do this. What we have to do is realize what is the purpose of the decisions that we're making. What is the overall end results? Because fear creates knee-jerk reactions as opposed to thinking it through and making a sound decision, because wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you're at the right place at the right time to make the right decision, and then that's your choice. But the divine system, I don't take it as far as a God. I'm like Tim in describing holding my hand blowing up. If I could comprehend what God was, I would probably have to buy 17 gallons of Preparation 8.
Oh.
I got you.
Okay, but I know the divine system. There is a law, and then there's the nature of the law. So both of those events that you're describing, predestination or predetermined history, or free will, they operate at the same time, but it's just up to each individual. By the time you get a chance to come here, you have reached the status of being a great, powerful, and mighty. Everybody is a spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. But to be great, powerful, and mighty, I was telling Tim, look up the definitions of great in the dictionary, great, powerful in the dictionary, and mighty. And for once, and trust me, apply those definitions to yourselves and look at the decisions that you're making and watch the miraculous, marvelous change in you once that happens. And it's as simple as taking a breath and realizing you chose to come and that you were chosen, and the most important part was that you were chosen to come, and quit being so crazy.
And don't you think just the odds
thank
of you making it here makes you worthy beyond measure? Just that you were the one who showed up with all those odds against you.
Hey, I keep getting up from the dead for how much fun this place is. I think it's a blast. And who in the world would want to miss the end of time? Not me.
Oh, my God.
You know, I feel the same way. That this is the Super Bowl right now. Why would I want to miss the Super Bowl?
That's where you get the most brownie points.
Yeah. This is where the rubber meets the road, folks, right here.
Speaking of brownie points, okay, so, and we'll talk about the scenario where a life review be somebody who's been doing a lot of evil. But what I noticed between your lifetimes, when you had your second near-death experience and you went for your life review, you had almost a similar, in the beginning part, a similar life review what you had before.
Yeah, it doesn't start where you left off.
It seems inefficient, though. I mean, why do they keep doing it over and over again?
Well, just to remind me either how far I come or how stupid I still am.
I love it, because I was like, man, you have to go through it again. But there must be a lesson, because it seems like the spiritual world is more.
Or the structure of the system.
Yeah.
The system believes that there is balance and harmony within the framework of you seeing you're still one life. It's important to realize it's just one life, okay? And once you've evaluated in the life review, once it's evaluated, I may see something that happened in the beginning because of where I am today, where I see and view things from today as opposed to when I was 10 years old. I mean, you know how many hairs was in the nose of the doctor who pulled you from your mother? That's how much you know. You know every name, every label, every tree, how many leaves the tree had on it. When you look at how you've limited yourself to achieve these goals, you will understand why I call you great, powerful, and mighty. You are an enormously powerful being. You have a skill set so magnificent and so loved and so appreciated, you get a chance to come here and practice being a god. You can create life. You can grow a garden. You can feed yourself. You can have babies. You can touch, help, support everything around you by a simple thought. But you have to have a value system that you base it, what I call as a baseline. Will your government lie to you? Okay? Will your pastor lie to you? Okay? Will your banker lie to you? Look at Wells Fargo. They created 2 million accounts. 5,400 people did it. You telling me the chairman of the board didn't know that? Hello? And so when you look at that the only thing you can trust is the decisions that you make and the reasons why you're doing it. And you hope that you encounter people like those listening to the show. You hope that you encounter people like you. And I sincerely believe that Tim, with the support of Susan and Jen, they're here trying to create an opportunity to find a safe place where once a week at a certain time, everybody sets an intention. You know, it won't be when you're on the air, but everybody sets an intention so we can celebrate it next Thursday. We'll know at Monday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all of us are going to stop. We're going to focus on something for the right reason, and we're going to hold that for a couple of minutes, and that's what we're going to do. Then we connect impactfully. Then we connect with a force, and then the divine force can move that energy into people, in places, and into events that makes a difference, that sparks that person's will to stand up. It's like the 100th monkey. One monkey washed off something, and then before it was over, monkeys 10,000 miles away were doing the same thing. We instinctively, ethereally, that's the term I call it, we instinctively, ethereally are all connected. Proof of that is in CERN and the Higgs boson particle proving the existence of dark matter, a funny name for God since it's no light in space, and for dark matter, to show that we're all truly connected. Not some guy from the Beatles and living on a mountain, contemplate his navel.
The white beard.
I believe that fool's just hungry.
And don't you think that all of the stuff around us that we have lost trust in or are losing trust in forces, to me, it's part of this great plan to take us forward, forces each person to now go within to the place they can trust, the only place where there is safety, where there is real truth and light, and come from that place. And that's where our real power is.
Well, it's where it always was.
Exactly. But
we've so lived outside of ourselves because of gratification, and we want a motorcycle because we can get it on credit.
And that's fun, by the way.
You know, absolutely. But you see, we've gone and lost that inner place.
And looking for direction from people outside of us that have nothing to do with us.
Yeah, the whole story is the one with the most toys wins at the end, except I've never seen a U-Haul on the back of a hearse.
Exactly. And I didn't see that stuff on the other side either. There wasn't a boat in sight.
Well, if you wanted one, you could have. If you got to the fourth level,
you wouldn't want one.
If you got, wait, don't go there, everybody. Don't go there. Because free will allows people to have that. I mean, watch over there. If you want a boat and you want to sit on the lake, you can have a boat and sit on the lake. You have to get to like the third or fourth level. Okay, because then it's about showing the skill set of manifestation. You know, you can manifest it. We have that skill here, but we put so many limits on ourselves because the divine's will was more important than the fact that I could pick the lottery ticket numbers. Okay, the divine will, so I cut myself off from that skill set so that I could fulfill the divine's will. Like me, I have endured everything that I have endured. And I have been through it because I'm so crazy, it was necessary for these things to happen, either to keep me on track or say, hey, crazy, keep it up, kill you again, or that it would have inspired people, that people would have seen that I would, no matter what you do to me, based on what I said in 1975 was my reasons for being here, to create spiritualistic capitalism, which became writing books and building the Twilight Brigade, and then the Center program, that 8-step program, which I have. It's created. It's done. I'm ready. It'll come out April. Ooh. As the new era starts, I will begin to manifest this program out in April, right on schedule.
Wow.
I knew it would be 40 years. I didn't know they were going to kill me 2 or 3 more times. So I, kind of slowed up a little. But nonetheless, I will achieve the goal. I will not let down the reason I was sent back. And I think that these near-death experiences have inspired me. But I want to tell you something that's funny about my relationship with the divine. I think the divine is funny.
I do too.
And I always tell people.
I sure hope so.
Well, I can tell you this. Look, I tell people, I said, if it's not funny, it's not spiritual. And if you want to talk to me about God and you're not making me laugh, you can just keep that crap to yourself. I don't need to hear all that. I'm only interested in three things: having fun, getting to heaven, and making money. And if you want to talk to me about anything else other than those 3 things, I do not need to hear it. So here's what I think. God, or the collective, because Yahweh, which is the original Hebrew name for God, it means they. Yeah, Yahweh. Then it became Jehovah. Okay, and what I like about Jesus, what I like about modern day Christianity is in Hebrew there are no J's. So how you get Jesus, Jerusalem? I mean, where do you get all that from?
I want to tell you a lot about what's been translated over the years.
Yeah, but there's no J's in Hebrew. Golly, give me a break. So watch this. I think God was looking down and had a couple of cherubs, beautiful angels, and they're all in Napa Valley, during wine season. And somebody said, God, look down at your precious, gorgeous world. And because people are afraid of pain, and they've developed pharmaceuticals because we used to be physical, Newtonian mechanics. Now we've become chemical.
Amen.
And we've become chemical. And the people who are putting the medicine forward and making these pills believe that there is nothing, that you live in a dead universe, that there is nothing after this life. And that's why your medicine works. So what happens to people is they get torn between you, the divine essence of their feelings, and the pain or the fear of transition. And now something has to be done. Well, God took a breath, got a shot of Grand Marnier, put her hands behind their head, took a breath, and said, well, I got it. I'm going to do something to blame them. So all of a sudden, because the advancements in cardiopulmonary resuscitation and the advancements in the understanding the chemistry of the body, we keep coming back. So the people who say there is nothing after this are the fools who keep bringing us back. So now the argument about the near-death experience, some people frame it as a religious experience. I never did that. If you read anything I say, I had no religion to flame him. The religion got funny to me. I'm guilty of what some people were doing in the desert 6,000 years ago. And think about this. The whole story is about a little girl talking to a snake. Okay? Now think about this. If you were a girl and you saw a snake, how long are you staying around? Number 2. And if that snake starts talking to you, well, first thing I'd be thinking is how I could get it on the Ed Sullivan Show, okay, or Dancing with the Stars, or you think you got talent, put a little bow tie on the snake and stuff, and then to think that my biggest problem is some woman was talking to a snake, and the snake was trying to get her to get a boyfriend to eat an apple, so he realized he was naked. That's crazy to me.
Total sense.
That's complete insanity. So the people who now say you're in a dead universe, are the people responsible for bringing us back with a spiritual experience. Because now we move into the quantum age.
It's ironic. They're doing the opposite of what they want, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're losing their power.
By creating they're losing their power by they're giving their power away.
People coming back with the knowledge.
They want to keep
that
power and they're
there
giving
is
it away.
no
I
end.
know. Yeah.
And that
and
empowers
there
everybody.
There is a living universe.
Yes.
Okay, not a dead universe. And so you have to learn to separate. But the key is that they have to disprove what they did to Raymond. Do you realize the near-death experience
Dr. Raymond Moody
is still considered a conspiracy thought? That people who have these experiences, who come back by the millions, and science keep trying to figure out how it was oxygen brain deprivation, a temporal lobe seizure, anaphylactic shock, something else other than that you had that experience. Well, I believe this too, Tim. I believe because it's become mainstream. You have to really be careful when you listen to people describing their near-death experiences. A person that's had an NDE can tell. There's a sound, and all of us who's ever had it can hear it. And I would have to say a little less than 25% of the stories I hear are not near-death experiences. They're a way that they're either cosmic experience or their rationale has come together to be able to house that experience in the NDE so people will give some validity. Okay? Some people have out-of-body experiences, but it's not a near-death experience. Tell me what you did for the next 6 months after you had this experience, and I'll tell you whether you had it or not, because it is life-changing, and you look for ways to serve. Mm-hmm. You have no choice but to see that the skill set that you have and the knowledge that you have of the length, breadth, and range of the opportunity to be godlike or to be caring and compassionate is so unlimited in this world. And those who seek to control, like you said, the Clinton-Bush Consortium, Rockefeller's Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, the Council of 300, all these people do is seek to be godlike themselves, but to manifest, control, and manipulate, much like the legacy of the Old Testament of the just, jealous God.
What's going to happen with them? Give us an example of what happened to them in a life review.
Think about Hitler.
Yeah.
He's going to have to be 6 million people. He's still going through his family.
I mean, because when you make decisions, this is what I just found fascinating. This is why I create the intentions that these people wake up to their own divinity, because look at Dannion. You know, although he was no Rothschild or Hitler or Bush or Clinton, but
that was worse.
Yeah, but if they stay in the dark until they pass, this life review is going to be so intense, and I almost feel sorry for them. But decisions they make is they're killing, maiming, destructively hurting billions of people because they're in a power role. Mm-hmm. They're affecting billions of people, not like, you know.
But they believe there's too many of us here.
I know, exactly. See, I mean,
well, it's all about me. What Dannion's saying about life changing is when you come back from the other side, you have had a glimpse of eternity. You now know you are eternal.
Yes.
And then you have this large view, which does encompass all of the world forever.
So everyone has to have an NDE really to get it.
No, they don't. They just have to listen to us. I would rather hear this story than be telling it, because sooner or later my analytical self would come to the conclusion.
Right.
And listen, the people who are creating it are trying to deny it. So guess what? Sounds like the government to me.
And when people don't have that awareness of the all and the large view, it's this tiny limited view. My life maybe will be 70 to 90 years. I better do everything I can do in this life because it's going to end. So everything is about as much personal gratification as you can get, as quick as you can get it.
What advice do you give the Rothschilds and the Bushes and the Clintons?
Have the best time you can. Keep robbing and thieving and lying, okay? Because every person that you ever hurt You're going to teach them something, but you're going to be them. There's no escape. So the biggest thing is why you're doing it, not what you do. But look at what we did since the formation of the petrodollar. We go in, we blow up a country, we destroy it, then we send the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund in there and loan them the money to rebuild what we just tore up. And this is how the military-industrial complex, and this is how America operates. We go in and we destroy it, kill 500,000 children, and then we come in and take control of their assets by loaning them the money to rebuild what we tore up. This is what we're doing today. This is the American scheme of things. So we are as Americans, we have the greatest spiritual responsibility of literally any other country in the world. We must be that shining city on the top of the hill. And why I'm so proud of what you're doing with Susan and coming here and watching your life. You really sincerely hold a place to get people to change their attention. And what is a joy about you, Tim, is you're not bitter. Most people who are radical on the radio, they radicalize, they polarize, they are bitter when you listen to it, and then they create a conglomeration of nothing happening, which allows implementation of laws, regulations, and control. Mm-hmm. And they're all saying they're doing it for your safety. Well, that I can't catch rainwater is for my safety, because if I analyze the water, I'm going to see what's in it, and I'm going to know that everything you're lying to me about is true. And if you look at that weather is electrical, here's the point. Everybody who's arguing about climate change, it's all our fault. Well, let me ask a question. Have you ever looked up the weather modification patents? Since 1947, God bless the Roswell space crash. But if you look up patents and you look up weather modification patents and to see how many they are, 48, then you look at the companies who's licensed this patent's technology. And do you think that what we now call weather modification or climate change could be caused by something that went wrong in one of those experiments? Because once you look up to see the companies who have licensed the patented technology and are using it, then it's easy to understand how Mother Nature and the electrical nature of the weather could have created the kind of damage that we're seeing. I'm not saying that it did, but I'm saying there's a really good chance that once you know that there are patents that can modify weather, then do you use them to control, manipulate?
Well, the geoengineering is such a big piece because it affects everybody. And you could pick what you want to eat. You could maybe not do GMOs. You could perhaps not drink fluoride water or even get a vaccination. But you really have no choice but to be under the sky and to deal with this type of aluminums. And it's a byproduct of this geoengineering, metals manipulation, this aerosol spraying that they do.
But if you charge the atmosphere, then as you bombard the ionosphere, when you come into the atmosphere, you get a greater enhanced control. You can dummy people down. You can use a certain aerosol, and then you can use a microwave with a gamma receptor, and you can transform consciousness. You can transform consciousness. This is not a theory, everybody. This is a proven fact. Look at the Germans. I was laughing the other day. Everybody's talking about fluoride in toothpaste prevents cavities. Oh, okay. Well, if that's true, who invented fluoride?
Alcoa and,
G.B. Harbin.
Okay.
Okay, look who invented fluoride. All right, so I guess that the Germans, during the Hitler Nazi occupation of the concentration camps, put gallon after gallon of fluoride in the water. I guess they was doing that to help them fight tooth decay, right?
They were decaying, but not.
More than plaque on the pineal gland, what is called the third eye, or the center of the soul, or the eye of Horus. What it does is fluoride puts a plaque around your pineal gland, which lessens your empathic spiritual connection. It sits in the center of your brain.
I had, to talk about activism, inspired activism. I always thought, wouldn't it be great if somebody got one of these meetup and, every time they saw a chemtrail up in the sky, call the local non-emergency police, call the local mayor's office, call the local news and say, hey, there's somebody sprayed. Because honestly, if your wife or your husband was slowly poisoning you, wouldn't you call the police? But this is happening on such a mass scale that Hitler said people will believe the little lies, but they won't believe the big lies, And that's why he was able to get away with so much. And, wouldn't it be neat? Because what you're doing is, and then you have thousands of people calling these local areas here. And what you're doing is not harassing them or trying to do that, but you're creating awareness. And then they will have the pressure to put on the FAA, who know exactly what they're doing. And when they send the planes up every day.
300,000 birds just drop out of the sky. How did that happen? It had to happen electrically.
Well, see, and this is the scary part, because there's no regulations. There is really very little even the Senate and the Houses are trying to understand this, because these corporations, they use it for their own reasons. They want to have a ski lodge. They wanted to snow there, but what happens is it dries up in California over there. So there's no regulation, so it's all an experiment, and they're all playing against us, and and
us against them.
And us against them. And so to me, it's out of control, and it's one of the most biggest threats right now. But this is what worries me the most. I guess if I'd use the word worry, what concerns me the most. Today it's aluminums and chemtrails. Tomorrow it could be some massive cyanide. We have no idea. If there's no regulation, they're putting anything out on the sky. They could do whatever they want. And if there is a depopulation program, which I think is the most idiotic reasoning to be, because it's all control, because really our destiny is to be like Captain Kirk in starships right now, sharing humankind are all over the universe and all over the solar system and the galaxies and exploring. That's where our destiny is. I truly believe it. And I'm a little upset that I'm not in one right now, and I have to be in Prison Planet, talking to Dannion right now.
But watch this. People like you're bringing the awareness. There's a quiet, subtle group of people who are becoming aware. We would have never been aware if we didn't realize that in 2005, 6, 7, and 8, the world collapsed. You can't owe $20 trillion and think you are solid. You are not. And if you take a good look at it, that debt is incurred. This is something I was looking at the other day. I was checking out the IRS because I started looking at the difference between the United States government and looking at agencies. Did you know the Bureau of Land Management is not a government? It's a contracted private company.
Like the Federal Reserve?
Yeah, contracted.
Unbelievable.
Look at where do you think the IRS is headquartered? Puerto Rico.
They can't be pulled from there, right?
Well, it's Puerto Rico. That means it doesn't come under the control of the District of Columbia, which is everything that sees your name in a capitalized letter means you're a corporation. You're not a human being. So the moment that people begin to differentiate between that they are a corporation as opposed to a human being, this is the key. This is the key. And if the government says it's not doing, then if you look at basic stuff, you realize you're being lied to. The fact that the government will lie to you about its intentions in your best interest, the moment that you can accept and realize that, then you have the power to transform. Until you look at that in this dimension, you'll never accept. You'll go along to get along, and you'll
power
end
up the whole time.
Yeah, and you'll end up with nothing. But once, like I said, you are a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. The only thing that can ever go wrong is you allowed something to affect your dignity, and what's affected your dignity is a structural, created reality based on you being afraid of you.
Amen. When we get back from break with Dannion Brinkley, let's talk about good angels, bad angels, maybe good aliens, bad aliens. See what kind of similarities we have in there too. Let's pick it up a little. Right back.
Clean, healthy, and crazy good. Clean Planet Proteins was founded on simple, down-to-earth principles. Make honest, healthy food. Make it safe and out-of-this-world good, and make it easy to get and prepare. After all, what's the point of being healthy if you can't enjoy life? And while our principles are modest, our goal is not. Simply put, we're out to change the way the world eats for the better. Each product features chef-inspired entrees that are nutritious and delicious. All items are fully cooked and never frozen. Just heat and enjoy. Each entree is individually wrapped and purchased in a 5-count pack. They last 45 days in your fridge. Lots of amazing flavors to choose from, so you'll never get bored. Order your Clean Planet proteins today at cleanplanetfoods.com and join us in changing the way the world eats.
All right, we are back with Dannion Brinkley talking about life, and now we're going to be talking a little bit about angels. What do you think of that?
Why not?
I know, and also I want to say one thing too. They say on a lifetime, people can change their personality about maybe 5% in a lifetime. They can push it, right? But I really believe Dannion is an example of how, yes, he still his personality was when he was boys and stealing the girlfriends, but you look at, you could transform your behavior 180 degrees. I mean, there's
change your intention.
Right.
I'm still a tough guy.
Yeah,
and I support it, but now instead of engaging people to show how bad I am, I'm worried about dying veterans and their widows getting cheated out of their pension and palliative and end-of-life care. And it's our American system that has completely failed those who defended this country. And I am at war to defend these rights of these people. And why? I am one of them. But I'd like to say something else so that people can recognize change.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to see how fast we're changing, everybody, go look at McDonald's menu. Look at what's happening that when you realize that a McDonald's French fry has no potatoes in it whatsoever. Okay? And you look at their shifted menu and their closing stores. The era of McDonald's fast food, junk eating, no offense, McDonald's, you're just making a living, but it's past. They're making salads, smoothies. The bread is no longer made of plastic. Their French fries have to be French fries. So that is people making a difference by not going to eat that stuff as they become aware that it is garbage. That it's garbage.
That's the power of the individual to choose.
And that shows that we are doing it. See, we all keep talking about, what people and giving them this opportunity. But if you take a look at something as subtle as the McDonald's menu, we are becoming spiritually conscious and health conscious, and we are rebelling against garbage that we've lived on for 50 years, and it's changing. We just have to do more of it.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, you don't call anybody. I mean, I'm for calling, but they're just going to blow that off. You write a letter to your local congressman and your local senator, and you deliver it to their office in your town. You don't send it to Washington. That means somebody in your world who lives where you live is going to open that letter. They're going to look at it. They're going to read it. They're going to think about it. And then they're going to scan it in and they're going to send it to Washington. So you've begun, if a congressman gets one letter, that means there's 1,373 other people in that same district that's thinking the same thing as you. So what if we decided to ask about chemtrails and if they're true? Well, what they'll do is relate us to someone else.
Yeah.
They'll forward the letter, and then you can keep asking that one person in Atlanta, or in Clarkston, or in Roswell, where the congressman has his office open. You can ask them every day. You put pressure on this. All politics are local. You got to come home before we're going to send you back up there. And if you have their offices, and the local person who's running that office paying attention to you, you have gained greater control of the environment you live in, asking the questions than you could ever if you were sitting in front of that congressman in Washington. That is the power of change in this election year, everybody. We can transform consciousness by writing and questioning our congressmen and our senators about the stuff that we see, chemtrails, GMOs. Does GMOs cause cancers? Well, they got 9,000 rats that'll show you that.
Roundup, you know.
So look.
So,
and Bayer aspirin is going to buy Monsanto.
I was just going to say that.
That means they control the whole. I get it. What do you think?
He read my mind again.
I know. You had it coming.
It's so loud, Tim.
Stole it out of my head. But and to me they're trying to get all this power now, which is only going to make it worse because it's that force against force. They're creating their enemy. They're
going to control the food source.
Yeah.
And then they're going to structure where you can't label it and you don't really know. It's like a vaccine.
I know.
And people say vaccines and all those doctors disappeared. Well, think about this. In my time, it was Agent Orange.
Right.
But Agent Orange did not show up and affect you for at least 22 years.
Right.
So if you want to eliminate, you put it in a vaccine. And as a vaccine releases and modifies and does what it's doing, then 25 years from now where they can't be blamed and you cannot sue a vaccine company now because it's called an experimental drug.
Well, taxpayers have to pay for it. You can't actually sue the actual company. So they have no incentive to try to put clean vaccinations in there. Exactly. We have Judy Mikovits all the time on the show, and she says, we have clean vaccinations. We could put clean vaccinations in place right now, but they're not willing to pay for it because you can't sue them because there's no incentive for them to put clean vaccinations in.
There's just too many of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have to reduce the population. It's the big thing. It's what Kissinger.
But they don't have to reduce. That's just an illusion out there. We could be exploring. Our space program is much more advanced than we're let to know. I mean, a hell of a lot more advanced. And it's just this group of people are keeping all these toys to themselves and they're not sharing it.
Because then you wouldn't pay your electric bill.
Yeah, because they couldn't be in control anymore rather than sharing the individual power. And I hate that because they're missing out on so much joy. Think about the joy you've had in your life. Susan, you live every day in joy. And you share your toys all the time. In fact, you probably give them all away. And then you get so many back without even asking about it.
Lose control. I mean,
it's an illusion of a control.
I understand that. Wait till the Panoramic Life Review comes.
They'll get it.
I hate that they wait so long.
Like I said, well, for me, it was the first one was a really sad moment because I'd never done anything. I didn't care,
Right.
My consciences were still in the plastic wrapper.
But you can consider that without dying. Yeah. You can still look at your life and think, what you've done in your life. If it was promoting good in people and helping or if it was hurting people.
Controlling and manipulating.
Nice,
but you know what?
Nice bag full of stuff there.
But you just start from where you are today.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're going to, hey, everybody, you're going to see why you did it. It's not what you did. It's always about why. So what you have to work on is the reason why your intention. For me, when I wake up in the morning, yes. Do I have to work? Yes. Do I have to create an income? Yes. But when I get up in the morning and look in the mirror at that aging creature there.
Handsome fellow, I may say.
I mean, I take a look at him. Then a veteran won't die alone because I got up today.
Mm.
I got up today, and a veteran won't die alone. So I have a duality. That's what light and dark, good and evil, day and night, the masculine and the feminine, positive and negative. I have two reasons for I get up, not one. And one is of service, which finds harmony and balance. And as I look at the world, and I'm looking at how to make the world of palliative and end-of-life care better at a higher quality than what I see. And then I work to make a living. I am lucky enough that they are both intertwined together. And if you have a job and you don't like it, then you want to balance that because most people's career is how they identify themselves. Then you get a little watch and $35 and they throw you away just like anybody else. But when you see what your business is and what your job is, then you find something that's creative. You get a group of people to visit a nursing home or you sponsor a child's program. And then no matter what the boss is saying, no matter what they think about you, they can't fire you because people are going to pay attention to the good that you've got the company doing. They can't help but give you a raise because you're outstanding and create a public image of people buying the products. And what have you done? You have spiritually and ethereally outsmarted them. And think of the joy, especially if you hate where you work. You got them all building houses and taking care of children. That's revenge, or not revenge. That's avenge.
And that's how you live your life. I mean,
exactly how I live mine.
And that is that is what an inspiration that is for people out there to understand, because you can be engaged in this three-dimensional world, and that we are creating this reality as we go. And it's in the car right over. He was explaining to me, and he's probably going to jump into it. I'm like, well, how do you really are in the present moment? I mean, literally. He didn't know me from Adam, right? And I could have been, I could have been the lady talking to the snake. All he knows, and he, the energy there, and of course he'll give his wife credit and everything, but and he lives in the present moment. Where is he involved in? That's where he's supposed to be. Exactly. And he completely engages in that. I mean, the people's lives he touched. We went out to dinner last night. It's been phenomenal to watch. I really I'm still processing it all, but it's amazing to me. And what he says is his view, I guess, outreaches distance wherever he is. It's outreach so far that he's analyzing other energies all around him and what's going on, and then he processes it and then puts it into a plan of action of what he wants this reality to be created to look like at this present moment. I mean, think about it. You're doing it on a nanosecond level.
I was doing it to Susan about her 7-minute joyous segment that's going to be a part of this show. Okay, so people, but wait, because look, I look at this show. This show can be fabulous. It's got to be segments. It's got to be hardcore radio.
Right.
Can't be wishy-washy, whiny box, goody-goodies.
Yeah.
Okay, these are the 4 things that are of interest, or the 5 things that are of interest to you in your everyday life, and we're going to talk about this particular subject within it. Right. Then you have a constructed show that's mental, physical, and spiritual, and then a points of observation, good and bad, for you to make a choice on whether you're going to write that congressman or senator.
Right.
Okay, whether you're going to do it, you set your intention to make a difference in the world you live in your neighborhood, and you want to write the person that lives in your neighborhood just like you, and not pay attention to what those fools are doing in Washington.
Right.
Because when you get a person's own office in the local town that they're involved in what you're doing, you got to come home to get elected. And if the person that worked for you for 8 years said you are no good SOB, then you will not get reelected, and we'll put another monkey up there. This is the true spiritual power. It's not who is Hillary and who is Trump. It's the person that leaves here and goes there so that you can keep them to know you're going to be on them. You're going to talk to your neighbors. You're going to ask your neighbors what you think, and you're going to show them the letter that you're writing. You're going to sit down with them and help them write their letter.
Amen.
You get 50 letters in a congressman's office. He will have to get him some preparation aids.
I bet he already has some.
Yeah, but no, they don't care.
No,
it's all one. Once you get there, I worked in Washington for 12 years as a defense contractor. I've been around. It all works like that, and we have to change it. I believe in citizen politicians. I believe in term limits. I'm a big supporter. Let's rotate the good ones in. Let's rotate the bad ones in.
Right.
Let's rotate them in, and if there's no good, throw them out and get us another one. We'll sooner or later find someone, and as soon as we find a great person or a great woman running that, we'll be against term limits.
We'll give that right up.
But it's funny because it's ironic, but at the same time, that engagement level is so watered down, and people are so discouraged. In fact, you say the word conspiracy, or you even talk politics. They have this, and we had a show on political correctness, Susan and I, a little while ago.
Yeah,
and
I'm really political.
That's why you're so loved. That's why we get along so well, right? Yeah. And how this political correctness was this communist mindset brought in early 1930s in the United States, and got into our colleges and school systems, and has basically warped our children, our millennials now. A lot of them, these really believe that these people, this communism is the way to go, and they don't realize how socialism, communism lead to fascism. And even, I guess, capitalism, but crony capitalism leads to fascism, but not spiritual capitalism.
Or godless capitalism.
Godless capitalism leads to fascism.
Think about this. In America, what do we want our children to grow up to be? Narcissistic sociopaths.
Yeah, and throwing pedophiles, too, because there are a bunch of them out there now.
Well, it's because it's about power and domination.
Yeah.
Control. And if you're like some of them, then I was listening to the other day when you were talking, like you're now talking about good angels and bad angels, that
right.
People are recycling their blood in Switzerland by taking children's blood, and pumping their blood out and putting the young children's blood into age. And think about Mr. Rockefeller.
Mm.
He's 100 years old, and he just had another heart transplant. Now, what creates that drive and that power?
Man sold his soul to the devil,
or something close to that.
Yeah. Well, and interesting, because I always had a much more open mind in reference to angels, because I believe in it. We have Anaya does a show called, has a show on angels, and she talks all the time. She communicates with archangels Michael and blah blah blah. But I see these angels, and I don't know why it's such a blasphemy to say, but could we not have looked at these angels and confused them as aliens? Could we not? And that perhaps the higher power is this greater energy, that's this neutral energy, this universal energy, and that these aliens and angels are under the same laws that we are as humans? Are we not aliens within themselves? Like, for example, I would say, you want to look at an alien, go look in the mirror. Because if you believe you have a soul, most of you don't. Most of you believe that your soul didn't come here from Earth. It's non-terrestrial, so it come from somewhere else. So are we aliens anyway?
Or you're made of stardust.
We are. We know that for a fact. We're made of stardust. Nice song.
I'm agreeing with you because of my study of. I'm a big Maya fan.
Yeah.
And I study culture. And if you start to look at the Mayas' understanding of terrestriality and Egypt, the alien concept and the alien relationship to God and aliens is very dominant. It's very dominant in those cultures, either in folklore or in Maya written language.
Sacrifices. Look at our Old Testament. The sacrifices made with the sacrificing the children to the gods, right?
Well, I don't think that was. Sacrifices have always been a part, and bloodletting has always been a part of culture, and I think that has some extraterrestrial influence. I agree, but angel means messenger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and by the time we get to angels today, those things with wings, that didn't come up. That's Babylonian, and the Old Testament was written in the 400-year occupation from Nimrod to Nebuchadnezzar. The Old Testament was written under the slavery of the Hebrew people. The Babylonians had wings. There are no angels in the Bible with wings, and then came Renaissance. And in the Renaissance, we had to create wings so that they could soar and fly, because Mercury and Apollo had winged feet. And so we had to create these winged objects. But every time you see an angel or you see something in a Renaissance painting, you also see a UFO. Okay? Yeah. You can look and you see this. So I believe a lot of what you're saying, Tim, that in the historical nature of not a written but a verbal language, some of the visitors from the extraterrestrial world have been here, and without any question, they have become godlike because of their strength and identity. I don't have any doubt about that. So why are they keeping it such a secret? I'll make a little prediction. I believe it'll be Pope Francis that will bring about the idea that there are extraterrestrial beings, and that they are now structuring and setting up within the context of the doctrine of the Catholic Church to ready us for that concept.
But these could be the bad aliens, though, and the bad angels, or whatever you want to call it.
I hope I get to meet them.
See, but my understanding is that's been going on for a long time in our space program. Everything.
I support that. That's a belief system that is absolutely accurate.
And I tell you, and I agree. I think that's a great. I mean, it makes sense to me. Why wouldn't it come from the popes?
To come from the Pope,
because supposedly
he represents God to so many
people, and they're more likely digest it. And say, at that point, I would say, that's why it's so important to go within your own internal guidance system.
Absolutely.
And use your own intuition to see if that's true or not. Because, like you said, once you stop trusting the government, you're now able to empower yourself.
Right.
What's the government? The Pope's the government.
Yeah.
It's just another name for it.
The religious theocracy
that
is created to manifest the fact that NASA couldn't tell us.
Yeah.
But the Pope could tell us.
Yeah.
And then he just can't wait to get those little green men to tell him about Jesus dying on the cross. Don't you know that's going to be a trip? I just can't wait. For anybody to believe that we are alone is the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
When you look at the Galileo and the Hubble and the new telescopes that are out there, and they did a gamma search of the universe. I read this in Scientific America. They estimate that there are 100 trillion galaxies with between 1 and 50 billion planets and stars. 100 trillion. That makes it theoretically, numerically impossible for us to be alone.
Right.
And then you have the inner Earth theory. Mm-hmm. The fact that they came here and they went in during the Ice Age, and there is these worlds, and the Germans have brilliant archives about going to Antarctica. And so,
you can't go up there. There's areas in the ground in Earth in the United States and Antarctica. Military has it locked down. You can't get in there.
Or you can't fly over it.
Yeah. So I mean, there's more proof of alien interaction than there is of probably President Obama being president. I mean, I'm telling you.
And you know why? Because everybody has a cell phone with a camera.
Yeah.
You cannot control and manipulate.
Yeah. But because it's not seen in the mainstream media, our default as human beings is to say it's not reality. That's why people are.
That's a religious perspective.
Yeah.
Remember.
Yeah.
Okay, who is God to a reptilian?
Right.
When you start to think like that, the only power, we all have cameras. We all have taken pictures. Every cell phone all over the world. Now, what's going to have to happen? Then it has to be the church releasing that and the Pope framing it so people would accept the fact of what so many cameras of people's cell phones are saying is a reality. It's not like you can watch it on Walter Cronkite. Everybody's got it on the internet. Everybody's got them landing. People are clearing their conscience and describing the interaction. So, hey, everybody, all I want to do is, since I'm from South Carolina and I'm a big NASCAR fan, if they want to take me on the ship and poke me a little bit and stick some things in me, and look up my nose, as long as they'll let me take that sucker around the moon and back, I don't care. Listen, where is the gas pedal? How many miles to a gallon did this sucker get? And can I take it around the moon? And how do you steer this sucker?
See, that's where, when you get involved in this, it's like a whole other industry. But you get involved in it, you realize there's contactees and there's abductions. Abductions are the anal probe nasty experience, and the contactees where you get on the ship and you travel around. Now, whether that's true or not, but there's so many valid and reasonable people out there who are having these experiences, and there's evidence. There's close encounters of the second kind. There's evidence. There's specific things that you can't deny. Metals that we've never seen before.
Or like Dr. John Mack. John Mack was a Harvard professor who started doing regression therapy, and people were abducted by aliens and had past lives, and they tried to take his chair away from him, and he went to court and proved the validity of a psychoanalysis of people who had been on spaceships and people who had past lives. He proved the validity of this, and they couldn't take his chairmanship away from him. And he happened to be in England and stepped off a curve and got hit by a bus.
Well, yeah, coincidence, right? Just like those holistic doctors. We're coming to we have about 4 or 5 more minutes, and Chris, we could talk about. I love this topic. I love that Dannion loves this topic too. And hopefully we could have him either come back or on the air, maybe talk more deeper about that, because I think it's important. Because I do agree. You heard it here first on the Good Intention Show. Pope Francis will be opening up at some time in the near future, talking about the alien interaction, because they think that that's going to be the most digestible way for humankind to realize what's been going on. And I'm telling you, don't trust whatever's coming out of these people's mouths. You're going to have to use your own intuition, because it's probably not going to be in our favor. All right.
It could be structured so that, and I'll tell you this quick. It could be structured so this way. If so many past cultures have had these alien interactions and built these magnificent cities and the things like it's in Bolivia, I mean, it's unbelievable what sits in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
If so many people's had these interactions and they're describing, then by creating a concept that these were the original gods, like there's a show called Ancient Aliens, that these were the original gods, then you are constructing a mindset for people to accept they were the original gods. And when the Pope introduces this person, you're going to relate that the church says this is what represents a godlike presence, and this is what it was for the earth as it evolved. And then they have completely set a mindset that would control. Okay, I will also say this, and this all comes from the visions from 41 years ago, the boxes of knowledge. Pay attention to Mount Zion and the Pope, everybody. The Pope, in order to make his story stick of the Catholic Church, he would have to create a Vatican-like presence in Jerusalem. So if you know, he's now supporting a Palestinian state. He's now making deals.
One world religion he's creating.
Well, if he does that with an extraterrestrial that comes back, that's been identified culturally throughout these societies based on when the Spanish conquered in the name of the Catholic Church. They didn't conquer anything in the name of Spain. They conquered it in the name of the Catholic Church. Watch Mount Zion.
Right, Mount Zion. Okay, remember that.
And no matter what, trust your intuition above all else.
Absolutely.
Practice it, use it, get to know it so you can trust it.
Absolutely. Wow, Dannion, this has been remarkable. You truly are an inspiration, not only for people who are on the cusp of experiencing what life is after life, but just for people who are living here and engaging in a world that we can change for the better, and it can happen. And I believe it. I believe it. I know you believe it, Susan. And he's a godsend coming here.
Well, I say the same thing about you and Susan and Jen. I mean, you look, guys, you come here every week and you make this happen. You put it together. You put your hearts out there. You're trying to structure intention. You're trying to be positive and being informative to people. Come on. I see you four as positive intention and influencing every week you come to make a difference. And so I see you guys the same way. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And one quick thing. Anything on your agenda right now? You want to get in touch with Dannion Brinkley, contact Dannion and Catherine with an y.com. Your next book coming out again is called The
10 Things to Know Before You Go.
I just wanted to hear him say that. You know?
Well, look, you have to have fun. And if you don't get a chance to buy the book, which I hope you do, let me tell you what the punchline is in the book. Aspire to inspire before you expire.
There you go. I love that.
That's perfect.
That is.
That's a bumper sticker.
That's the last page.
That sure is.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Danny, for coming out. Susan, Jen, everybody. I love you all. All right, I don't even want to talk about what's going on next week because I'm just.
Well, Susan will be here next week.
Okay, we can talk about that. That's good. Good. I don't know what we're talking about, but I'm sure it'll be related. Daniel's going to give us some ideas what we could talk about next week. All right. So anyway, thank you all. I appreciate everyone and hope you enjoyed the show. 2-hour special, Dannion Brinkley, and you can check it out on our podcast and also on ui.org. Take care, everyone.
You have been listening to The Good Intention Show on the UI Radio Network. The Good Intention Show is sponsored by the United Intentions Foundation at unitedintentions.org. Look for us on Blog Talk, Spreaker, iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, and many more. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram under United Intentions and on Twitter at Higher Intention. Be sure to log on to unitedintentions.org, a virtual community where you learn to create, track, and manifest your passions, one intention at a time. Have a wonderful day, and until next time, live life with intent. The United Intentions Foundation and its associates take no responsibility for the opinions and statements made by the talk show hosts or their guests.